Well, good morning, everyone. This is Curtis Witt, and I'm here with networker extraordinaire Robin Mansell for her last, but certainly not the least, module in this in this basic training on power networking. Hello, Robin. Good morning.
Good morning, Curtis. How are
How are
you?
you? Wonderful. How are you this morning?
Doing great. Doing great.
Excellent. You ready for to wrap this series up?
Yes, sir.
All right, all right. So today's is networking for results, and so we've gone 4 weeks, and we've talked about a variety of subjects. We also have the follow-on advanced networking and working with Robin, but networking for results is our fifth week and our final module. As usual, important things to remember. We talk about in this training. This is as I've said 4 weeks now. This is unconventional. It's more around the lines of understanding where some more experienced people like Robin have been, and just asking questions and really getting insight, not from chat gpt or not from some academic, but a person that has been there, had the track record, and is still being successful and is teaching us how to be successful in today's world. Community rules, as you very well know, we are a wonderful community, professionalism, courtesy, etc. And as we know, to get help and support, just put in a. You can just email us or put in the chat, and we will answer ASAP. All right, so let's get started by talking about measuring networking success in terms of defining success metrics and qualitative and quantitative data, which we don't have to necessarily talk about. But Robin, talk a little bit about for you what is the definition of networking success? How do you define any metrics you may have, and what has been your experience one way or the other?
I would consider it not necessarily monetarily, although obviously that is an advantage. But I would define it more so about being the person that people think about when someone is looking for either your service or your product. Having a tribe of people who clearly understand what value that you bring to the table and what separates you from others. Um, I would define that success in people who recognize that you are out and that you reciprocate business back and forth. I would think the recognition of uh, success and networking success has a lot to do with the recognition from other people.
Okay. All right. That's very good. And one thing that you said here that I'm going to pick up on is that people know what you do. And I'm going to uh, uh, rephrase that just a little bit and have you comment on it. People understand what problem you solve,
Mm-hmm. Right.
which, which allows you to allow someone else to go, oh, I know who can solve that problem, and they can refer you.
Absolutely. Yeah. That there's you paint a clear picture of who you are and what you do, so that it is very easy for people to connect you with other people
Hmm.
because they have clarity in what you bring to the marketplace.
Clarity in what you bring to the marketplace. Do you reflect on that in terms of your message to the marketplace, and in terms of feedback and reflection, and then refine it as you go? How do you handle, your it really is part of your elevator speech, but how do you handle part of your reflection on what you bring to the marketplace?
So it depends on who I'm speaking with also,
Okay.
um, and what benefit it may be to them, to their company. So if I'm talking to realtor or contractor or banking, you want to tailor it. It's probably the same elevator speech, like you said, but you may have to adjust it and tailor it depending upon your audience.
Hmm. Okay. All right. And so in terms of that, the message is tailored to the audience,
Mhm.
and but the problem you solve is
Mhm.
still the fundamental problem you solve.
Right. So, and this takes some time for people. They'll have to write some things down to understand it, like who's really your market. And I can give you an example of when I'm talking to a bank, so or anyone that deals in financing or
Hmm.
banking or SBA. I will bring up the value we bring based on there are particular loans that are tied to our industry. And so they would have to contract with us to qualify for some of those loans. So I make sure they understand that I know about their loan also. I know about what they do. And so I'm able to connect the dots from that.
That is a very insightful point as it relates to really understanding what they do, such
Mm-hmm.
that you can make connections and almost work your way backwards. Here's the problem I solve. Here's how that I solve and help what they are doing. Here's how that fits in, and so you can talk to what they are doing based on from your perspective of the problem that you're solving.
And they also have to, and we talked about this in previous sessions, it's really important that you be observant of the body language and the response that you get back, because that will tell you whether or not they even understand. Because sometimes on jobs or positions, especially from corporate type of work, or even just like the employees with a company, they're pigeonholed into a particular um, mm, onto a particular job, I'll say, or
Okay.
position. And so just because they work for the bank doesn't mean that they will understand this connection. Sometimes it can go make above their pay grade, I'll say that.
Right.
So you got to pay attention to the response you get to find out who is the person you should be talking to. Because sometimes it'll go right over their head. So you have to be pretty observant to realize, okay, I'm talking to the wrong person. And that actually happened to me just recently. There were three people from the bank, and they had the energy. The young ladies had the energy that they wanted from somebody there. We're all sitting at the same table, but it was kind of a canned speech. But the elder of the three knew exactly what I was talking about, and it was clear that the other two did not understand. So who do you think I honed in on?
The elder.
The elder. She understood. The other two, it was like deer in headlights. They were like, I don't know, like I was speaking another language. So very important that you pay attention, because you can tell when people get what it is and they see the fit. But if I just show up, I'm sure you've met people like this. It's your experience with working for a Fortune 500 company. There are people there that literally they do exactly what they're told, and they don't think beyond that.
Right.
That's not your person.
That is certainly not your person, for sure. Absolutely. That- which brings us to when you find your person and you have some success. How have you? What do you do in celebrating achievements, small and large?
Mm, yeah, that's a tough question because I, I, mm, that's a really tough question
How do
because
you acknowledge your wins?
it's, I, I just consider it a part of it's a part of the lifestyle. It is a part of, um, I'll give you a perfect example since you and I talked about stories before and we're talking about, and I was watching a video and they were talking to Kobe and I think I guess they were in the playoffs and they won a game
Uh huh.
or another game and the person was like, they press conference after the game and the guy was like, why you're not, what, you don't look like you're happy. He goes, what's there to be happy about? It's not over. I'm not finished. I got things that I'm not finished. And I remember I related to that because I'm not even close to being finished. I got so much more to do here that a win is what I work for. This is what I put the time in for, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not playing to lose. So I guess that
Very true. This is very true.
yeah, so how do I celebrate? I have an expectation for continuing to build this business as to take it as far as I can, or as much as I don't. Yeah, these wins are what I put the time and energy for, but I'm not, like Kobe said, I'm not finished. I'm not even close to being finished.
Right. So in your not exact neighborhood, but in your backyard there, USC, obviously USC and
Mhm.
UCLA,
Mhm.
and there was an old coach. You may remember at USC, his name was John McKay,
Mhm.
and John McKay insisted that his running backs and his wide receivers never celebrate, just hand the ball back to the referee when
Mhm.
you had a or the umpire when you scored a touchdown, and his famous saying was, "Act like you've been there before."
Yeah. My mom used to say that. My mom, when I was, maybe that's where, because my mom used to say, you could tell people that it's kind of the same thing. She would say, you could tell when people never had anything before because of how they act. So you act as if, or it's a it's a state of mind. Like it shouldn't change you so much that there's this major difference in who you are.
Right, right.
So yeah.
Certainly, though, you do acknowledge the win, and you acknowledge the team around you, and that type of stuff. So, but
Yeah, people like recognition. We have a small, our company is a small, you know, small. We have a very small team right now, but a lot of those wins are coming from the relationships that we're building from networking. We have strategic partners, we have affiliates, and I want to see them win.
right,
But only they can tell you like what's enough is enough. And I'm I there's so much out there to conquer. Like I was in a meeting yesterday, and the guy said, "So what's some of your goals, Robin? What would you say is your biggest goal?" I said, "World domination."
take
and
over take over the
I
world, Pinky. Yeah,
yeah, but it's not. Uh, I want to do the best all the time. Like a win for me is I went to an event, which I did, and a client was there. was speaking on the panel, and I got another, I made a connection that that is like eager to work with us. That's a win. That's a win for sure. But there's nothing to celebrate at this point, but it is an expectation that if you're in this room, everybody in the room is not, like I'm not, and this is nothing against an insurance people or everybody in that room is not my client. Mm-hmm. I'm not like people in that industry. Pretty much if you're breathing and you can fog up a mirror, that's their client. That's not my client.
Right.
So if I can be in a room of 50 people and I can find one person willing to do business with us, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm even happier when it comes to fruition if something actually happens.
Absolutely. Okay. So measuring network success, going through and defining metrics, quantitative and qualitative, regular evaluations, feedback and reflection, which you do quite a bit of, and then at least acknowledging the achievements. Yeah. Turning connections into opportunities. I think you just hit on, what a win is. Talk a little bit about mutual benefits of connections.
My favorite, which is win-win.
Right.
I don't do anything unless it's win-win. It's different levels of win-win. I am so certain that I'm giving value to that person. And I get so excited when they have something that I can help them with, that I'm not trying to push on them what I have. It's through a conversation that you find out that this can be mutually beneficial, win-win, reciprocity, all of that. That's my favorite part of this, is that I do we do what we say we're going to do, and the excitement when they get what they want. And that's it right there. Let's make it. I want to make it happen. And obviously we're going to get paid for doing that, but they're going to get what they want. That's the most important thing.
Exactly. And how do you effectively communicate that as it relates to making sure that they really understand that it is mutually beneficial? Is there any catchphrases you say? Is there anything that you particularly do to make sure that, any hacks you can give us based on your experience?
So effective communication is never assuming anything. It is getting clarity and making sure that you guys both see the same color blue. And you've heard me say this before, because there's dark blue, powder blue, teal blue. Those are not the same blues. If you put them up somewhere, powder, they're not the same blue. So I can't say something to somebody and think that they get it, that we're on the same page, unless I ask questions and get clarity. For example, sometimes in this business, people, like, they might want something, like what's popular right now is EV chargers, right? They might want that. So I have to ask them questions. See, some people, they would say that I need 2 EV chargers, and they say, oh, okay, let me get you the price. I need to know, why do you want them? What do you think they're going to bring to you? I need to hear from them. I don't want to put it in their head first. I want to, it's the number one, number two thing that people that are on this course right now is ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Ask questions. People love talking about themselves, number one, but you're asking questions because you can't know what they want except from them, right?
Right.
Who's going to tell me what you want better than you? So I don't ever tell anyone what they want. I give them what they have said from their own mouth. Now, do I have to sometimes explain that may not work? Or I wouldn't advise that. But if I say that, I got to tell them why.
Right.
So effective communication is when there's a clear understanding between both of you, no assumptions. You've made the line very clear about what's going to happen and what's going on, and you follow that from start to finish.
Okay. And how do you personally and teach your team or help your team leverage their strengths?
Oh, that one too. So I believe in emphasizing your strengths and outsourcing your weaknesses. I don't believe in trying to fix your weaknesses. You're not good at it, so get somebody else to do it. So if your strong point is communication, then you be the one to communicate what needs to be done. If you're networking, especially like I said, if you're working in a team. Now, if you're individuals doing this, then be very honest with yourself about what you're good or what you're great at. And even if you're a one-man operation, one-person operation, you can still get somebody to do those things that you're not good at. Don't try to force it.
Right.
Just, this is what I'm great at. This is what I'm good at communication. I'm good at follow-up. I'm good at painting a picture for people. Emphasize your strength and outsource your weaknesses. You'll be so much happier, and you'll be even better at it because you're doing. If you're really good at it, it means you probably enjoy doing it too.
And I would imagine that your rate of progress goes exponentially faster.
Much faster, much faster. Like in my business, I'm very good at connecting. My chief operating officer, she is very good at on the technical side. I'm not technical at all. If I have to do it, I can, but I would prefer not to be in that space. I would prefer to not, have to do the technical side of things. I would so much rather somebody who is good at that do it. I'm not good at that. I'm good at delegating, connecting, leveraging. Those are, I know very clearly what I'm good at, and I don't like doing the other things.
Yeah, and when you know that you don't like them, there's no sense of forcing it.
Right.
And there is always someone who likes those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've even said, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. It's that much of a turn off. It's like, I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Turning connections into opportunities. Just touch on, because we've all throughout the 4 weeks, we've really touched on a little bit around professionalism and staying professional, et cetera. Can you, let's put this one to bed as it relates to over your decades of networking, the whole notion of maintaining professionalism. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That can pertain to a number of things. Professional dress, professional manner in which you speak, professional etiquette.
Let's take professional etiquette. Let's take etiquette. I would imagine everybody. I would hope that you're not gonna show up at a function in a costume unless it was a costume party. You're not going to show up at a function. You're going to show up in the most appropriate, attire.
You would think, wouldn't you, Curtis? You would think so, wouldn't you? Well,
do we need to address it, Robin, here? Maybe you
Yeah.
should at least touch on it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So one of the things that I've noticed with people that, and all the adults do this, and I watch them, they'll be on their phone during a presentation, which
Mhm.
is so rude. It's rude, um, but it's like almost natural. They're not even on their phone taking a picture of the person speaking. They're on their phone like they can't, like they have to take the call. I tend to put mine on airplane mode. One, because like you said in the beginning, housekeeping, I don't want my phone going off while somebody is speaking.
Right.
Um, so there's so many levels to that whole idea of professionalism. Like even getting on a Zoom call, mute your phone. Come on, people, mute your phone.
Yes.
um,
That's the worst.
yeah. What were you gonna say,
I
Curtis?
said that is the worst. You
It
know,
is the worst. And
somebody.
here's what's funny. People say, "Well, you have the controls. You can." But guess what? I shouldn't have to do that because you're an adult. You should have got on the phone and muted your phone,
Right.
right? Um, you know, um, what else is it? Uh,
That's a big one.
yeah, that's a big one. Like, gosh, there's so many things that could be. Apparently, like you said, uh, we should know what dress code is. Nowadays, it's hard to tell sometimes because sometimes it's business casual.
Hmm.
Um, things like that. Another one that I think is important is that it's probably a pet peeve of a lot of people. My mom used to tell me this, like you're talking to someone and then someone interrupts you while you're talking to someone, and then you get completely off track, and sometimes you start talking to that person, which is rude to the person that you're talking to, right?
Right.
But it was also rude for the person to interrupt. So it goes all the way around with that. Um,
Seems like it would be just common sense.
yeah, but it's not. It's not. It's for adults. I've just watched adults. I mean, even things like, okay, don't, maybe you shouldn't have another drink because some networking events have drinks, right? Maybe you're done. um,
Back away from the free table.
right, but you would think that etiquette is big, and they still have etiquette classes, which um, people could stand to. I think this one I know is more about how you eat certain things and stuff like that. But professional, maintaining professionalism. Don't cuss don't cuss at while you're in a meeting. Like, because some people could be offended behind that.
Right.
Um, just almost like the things I was at a training once, and I said, and they were young people. I think everybody was under 30 for sure, maybe even younger than that. And I said, how many of you know what home training is? I think 10 hands out of 200 raised.
Wow.
Gone are the days. Home training. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just like I said, it's just very, very different. Those basic things you would think matter. Don't answer your phone in the middle of a meeting and things like that. But yeah, you think we would know, right? But
I think it goes just a tad bit, even a little bit deeper from the standpoint of what you are missing. As the person that's not being professional, you're actually, I mean, there's a reason why the speaker is up there. There's a purpose for everything, and it's your responsibility to find that purpose, that gold in those golden nuggets. And if you are distracted by whatever,
hmm
you lose out on the opportunity. So it's really, you're hurting yourself.
right. Even the late part, I don't. The late part, I don't like that part either. Because typically most things have a networking period in the beginning. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Like, you don't want to come for that part. But when it starts, you should be in your seat.
Right.
Should be in your seat. Um, so like I said, yeah, it's a different world we live in right now. Because these are things that we think are professional. And then sometimes people just, I don't know, just kind of the wild, wild west out there sometimes.
Right. Wow. And the interesting thing about this section is, I thought, well, we'll brush over this, but it gets deep.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
really does get deep around professionalism.
Oh
We
yeah,
think
I
not a lot of it.
people are watching you. That's another thing. So just watch what you're doing because they are watching.
Right.
They're watching what you do. They're watching. Sometimes they're watching how you eat. Even, are you like hoarding things? And you just have to be careful because think about the things that you would look at and think, well, that wasn't appropriate,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. All right. Turning connections into opportunities, mutually beneficial, effective communication, follow up and consistency, as well as leveraging your strengths, which we talked a lot about, and the wonderful world of professionalism. Overcoming networking challenges. We talked a lot about introverts and strategies uh, previously. Do you want to touch on that, or are you good with introvert friendly strategies?
Well, I'll just repeat some of that. That introverts have to look at. It probably would be things like Zoom, things where they don't have to be in person. I would think it would have more to do with them being in person, but because if you're on a Zoom call, you're typically not called on until, very, very seldom. So you can actually listen and take that information. Maybe introverts are not that excited about going to meetings and things like that. I think introverts just have to figure out, because there's a lot of options that they have, what works best for them. It could be that, like on some social media, you're not doing videos, you're just writing. Figure out where you're most comfortable, and then you don't have to try to force it.
Excellent. Excellent. And, so one of the things that just about, I mean, outside of the realm of sales people uh, who understand, or I think have the proper mindset around rejection, not a lot of people enjoy, getting what we would term on face value rejected. How,
Mm-hmm.
how do you, what's your mindset around the notion of rejection? What does it mean to you?
It depends on how that rejection is, because sometimes people reject because they don't understand.
Okay.
So it really depends on, that's where I do believe in, there's a time for overcoming objections,
Hmm.
and going back to the way you overcome an objection is you just ask more questions. You just ask more questions. So if you phrased it a certain way and they say, no, I'm not interested, you might ask them, well, tell me why you're not interested. Is it price? Is it you feel like you don't need it? You feel comfortable to tell me? Because that would help me if you could let me know. Because if you're just turning a rejection into a learning, instead of feeling like they just said no and you're taking it personal, take it as a learning moment. Can you tell me, did I do anything wrong? What would you suggest? Ask more questions. And then you don't feel rejected. You feel like, oh, I learned something today. He told me that I talk too much. And then now you're like, okay, so next time I'm not going to talk as much. He told me I didn't seem prepared.
Right.
Okay, so next time I'm gonna, and then people like coaching. People like, because they like writing reviews like Yelp and stuff like that. So if you do it that way, you put them in a power.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They like that.
So, we talked about introverts, and you don't have to be an introvert to have this next topic, having networking anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
What, after several decades of being in the game, do you still have networking anxiety?
I don't want to say it's anxiety as much as sometimes you walk into a situation and you don't know what you're there for. Like, you don't really have a clear idea, because I do go to a lot of networking events. I was at one today, and I really wasn't clear on what was going on. But the beautiful thing is I saw some people that I knew. A couple of them were actually on the panel, and so that makes things, because when you're talking to somebody else, those people, that kind of breaks the ice. I don't really feel anxiety about it. Just maybe a little of the unknown if you go into a networking event that you've never been to before, or you
Right.
don't know anyone there.
Okay.
I guess I don't like the word anxiety. That's why I'm calling it something else. I'm not big on the word anxiety because, I don't think I feel anxiety.
Okay. Okay. That's cool. All right. And I know you're a stickler. You just talked about it earlier as it relates to time and time management, but just speak
Yeah.
on that. 'Cause I know
Time.
you're a big,
Another one of my favorite things,
another one
time
of your
management.
favorite.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, I'm There's something called the principle of time. Says we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And what you do with those 24 hours will also dictate what your earning potential looks like. So I like to plan my day the day before, and probably even for the whole week. And I use my cell phone. And on
Uh-huh.
my cell phone, I even have on there, you should be leaving the house right now.
Hmm.
You should be getting dressed right now. You should be calling, like, it's on my phone. I have the alarm go off. And I don't feel, I don't feel that I'm, rigid behind that. I don't feel rigid at all. I find it an amazing tool,
Okay.
because my day, my time, and it's just it's valuable. But I'm not, like I said, I'm very flexible.
Hmm.
The only time it's for me is when I feel like sometimes people are wasting my time. Like, I was going to do a podcast, and I was dressed, I had full hair, makeup on, and the guy told me 30 minutes before. Well, come on now, 30 minutes before, shouldn't I be ready?
Right.
And I'm sitting there, and then I get a message. Literally, like, I'm all ready for this. And so I brush it off real quick, but I don't like my time being taken off schedule.
Right.
So time management is huge. You get a lot more done. You can actually document what you're doing. Yeah, I like time management. I very much like it.
So that brings up some very good points for you in terms of hacks. You mentioned your telephone.
Mhm.
You mentioned, do you use alarms,
Yeah,
or at least reminders? Uh, y- Documenting so you can actually see what was done, uh,
right.
and what you actually went through. All of those are like really key and best practices.
Hmm.
Anything else you do that would help our networkers?
Time to things to do lists,
Ah, okay.
because then you can see, even before you have the things to do list, because there's like several techniques. You can write out, like, say, okay, these are all the things that I need to get done. I got a lot of things, just sit there and free. kind of freestyle and jot what they call it, a brain dump, and okay, these are the things I need to get done. Then put A, B, or C on them. A are the things that really need to get done immediately. If I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do these first.
Right.
The B things, you got a couple of days. You could go, 2 or 3 days to get it done. But the C things, they're things you would like to get done. Like maybe you want to clean out your closet. It ain't really a big deal if you don't clean out your closet right now, but it's on your list of things that you'd like to get accomplished. So you can keep moving that one around.
Important, but not urgent.
Yeah, it isn't urgent. I mean, I'd like to do it. It's on my sometime in the near future, but it's not like, you got an important bill to pay. Your insurance is going to lapse on such and such time. No, you got to get that done right away.
Right. And what would you say around this is you played this game a very long time, and I imagine over the years you've cultivated a certain amount of patience, even though you may have a sense of urgency, not emergency, urgency. Talk a little bit about your ability to cultivate patience as you go through this process.
Well, that's a really good, because I'm not always a very patient person. Typically not patient with other people, but I'm trying to be. I'm not real patient with other people, but I am patient with myself and my reactions to other people. But that's an interesting one, because it comes with the territory if you're in sales, where it's cultivating patience, it's fortunes and the follow-up. These are all things that you have to develop. You will develop patience if you're in sales, because things don't always go like they're supposed to. And if you're in this industry, which typically has a lot to do with contractors and construction, you better be patient, because these deals can take forever to close.
Right. You touched on something that I just want to hit, because you said I'm patient with myself, and I want to make the distinction between the sense of urgency when tasks have to be done versus humanizing things in terms of being patient with, people, if you would, as opposed to, hey, I got to get this done. It's not, I'm not panicking, but there is always a sense of urgency.
Yeah, and everybody doesn't have that. That's a skill set. So when I'm saying not always patient with other people, when you are, like even with this course we're doing, right? And a lot of times people say they want to acquire better skills. But the part when they have to participate in it, that's a hard for patience for me, because it's like, I just said this the other day. It's like you say you're thirsty. I'm really, really, really thirsty. And I take you directly to the water and say, okay, here you go. And then you say, well, I don't have a straw. Okay, yeah. I think where my patience, I have patience in doing deals. I have patience in, things don't always go well. We had a call the other day, and they told us, like, they put us on hold literally for over 30 minutes. We had a scheduled call, and they put us on, and I'm sure your patience depends on the level of maybe even monetary gain for you to be patient, right?
Right.
Probably, if it was like like the other person that I was doing something for, and then they don't tell me, I was probably like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm not worried about that. But if I'm dealing with a client and it's a high level client, I probably am going to be a lot more patient. When I'm dealing with, that's why I say patience is in different situations. If I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom and you still want to make excuses, I'm not real patient with that.
Right.
So, yeah, your patience that you cultivate, you're going to see in what situations that you are cultivating patience. It'll be different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So so here's the interesting thing. We have come, it's almost like boys that, well, no, we got one. This is the great one. This is the networking for entrepreneurship. This is good because this is like what you've been doing, right? I mean, if we were to encapsulate, what you have been doing for, you know, 25 plus years, it would be networking for entrepreneurship. So
Hmm.
let's get into this because this is, by the way, this is our last module, and I'd like to propose that we come back for a bonus, but the bonus is just to wrap everything up, tie it all in a bow. And you and I
Hmm.
can talk about that as a bonus. But identifying key stakeholders, pitching your vision, leveraging online platforms, which we've talked about, building a support system, and strategic alliances. Let's first dive into identifying your key stakeholders and what that looks like for you.
So, tell me what you consider a key stakeholder because I kind of look at them as like a strategic partner. So, when you say
Okay.
identifying key stakeholders, tell me what you mean.
Let's use strategic alliances and strategic partners as your key stakeholders
Okay, okay. So, people who have a stake in what it is that you're doing, right?
in whatever transaction, whatever. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, that's really from A to Z. That's part of the process anyway. When you start networking, you're going to pay very close attention to people because everybody is not your connection. Everybody is not going to support you in the same way. So, what you're looking for is, as you've identified, key stakeholders. It could be large corporations, it could be someone that networks a lot, it could be organizations, like key organizations would be these stakeholders. Like for me, it's quite a few organizations, chambers, um, women's organizations, the U.S. Green Building Council, places like that. Those I would identify as your key stakeholders, and perhaps the way you've defined that and helped is different than the strategic alliances. They might be a little bit of that, but they are uh, they're like that, the kind of like if you were identifying like corporate sponsors, they're on that particular type of a level, and you get not just support from them, but you also get some mentorship and some things like that too, because there's a stake in that relationship working well.
And so if you do that, I'm going to jump right down. So a strategic alliance, the
Mm-hmm.
difference would be, and I'm looking at it from your perspective, it would be like you guys you traveled and did
Mm.
EV
Yeah.
charging, that company. Can you kind of make the distinction because that company is a strategic alliance to your company?
Right. So we are a sales channel. So depending upon, most people in real estate, insurance, people in those fields are all in the sales. So for us, we call them our strategic partners, strategic alliances. They are the people that we're working together to bring a deal together. They have something we don't have.
Hmm.
So they're a partnership, and they're the people that we go to that we win-win all the time. because we bring them what they need and they give us what we need in order to facilitate or complete a particular deal. There's usually a monetary exchange between these strategic partnerships too. Okay. And they are the people that you depend on in order to bring to the marketplace your value. They typically add value by what it is that they do. You may not do it. Again, when I talked about outsourcing, that was on outsourcing your weaknesses. That was more on a personal. This is more on a business level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they could be part of your input to the process, and they could, or they could be part of your fulfillment of your sales channel.
Right. Like, for example, we're a member of the chamber. The chamber is a networking organization, but they're not necessarily a strategic partner.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So places like SCORE is not going to be a strategic partner, but they could be a key stakeholder, because if there's somebody that you go to for advice, mentorship, things like that, they often have a stake with no monetary participation in what you do.
Right. Very key distinction between number 1 and number 5.
Right. Very
key. So tell me about, how you pitch your vision. I mean, your vision of the company from a renewable energy perspective. Who are you talking to when you pitch your vision? And is that for everybody? Just talk a little bit about pitching your vision.
Well, depending upon where you are, I mean, there's so many places where you're going to find yourself pitching your vision, and then that pitching your vision is going to sort who understands what you're doing. Like the example I gave earlier about the 3 ladies at the table, but only the elder lady actually understood how I was making the correlation.
Yeah.
So pitching your vision is something you're going to do. You got to do it. The majority of the time, you've got to be able to say something that they understand. Because we're in a space, like today they were talking about going into industries that are not necessarily popular or that recognizable or that you don't see people in. And so we're in an industry like that. And so a lot of times people don't understand what we're talking about because it's not, you don't run into people and it's not like you run into an insurance person every day. Not to pick on it, I'm just saying that because everybody knows an insurance person. You run into a realtor every day. You run into a life coach every day. You don't necessarily run into a renewable energy company every day.
That is true. That is very true. So you constantly have to educate in pitching your vision.
Constantly. And depending upon the time that we have, usually you've got like 30 seconds. I have to say, if I just say, we sell solar and EV chargers, that just went right over everybody's head. You have to say something that gets their attention. We help companies reduce their energy costs so that they can save money and use that money somewhere else where it's more effective for them.
Right.
So if you don't say something that they can relate to, it just, what are you talking about? I don't know what that is.
Excellent. And talk a little bit about how you build a support system as it relates to key stakeholders as well as strategic alliances, building it, and the importance maybe of building a support system for you.
Well, you got to start doing that from day one, period. When you decide I'm going to be in business, and even if you're working for another company, it's still important that you build those relationships with people. And there's really not a textbook way to tell people that, because you won't know. It's like you have to do it so many times in order to find the right people. And so you're going to consistently, you should be talking to people and meeting. Like the event I went to today, there was new people there. And I was able to get the attention of somebody who really has some services that they want to get done. But you've got to be thinking about you're doing it all the time. And you also have to think about it like, I'm going to learn something when I'm there too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there just for that. You've got to build relationships based on a genuine, very authentic conversations with people. And if you think about them first, then you'll be able to put them in the slot they belong in. Are they a stakeholder? Are they a key stakeholder? Would they go there? Are they a strategic partner, a strategic alliance? You've got to have the conversations in order to figure that out. You've got to keep showing up and keep showing up and keep showing up in order to figure out where there's some synergy.
Right.
And
go ahead. And
the problem is a lot of people, just like everything, just like diets, just like everything, people just give up too fast.
Okay. And from a building a support system perspective, you've identified, are these stakeholders, are these strategic partners, and could be strategic alliances and things of that nature. And you said you start now. You don't just,
now. You start now. It's like when kids go to college, really, they say college, you should be networking. A lot of networking relationships come out of that. And then I think I mentioned before, I was listening to a podcast, and Michelle Obama said that she was open, whereas people said, you're in this position now, you shouldn't be. She goes, no, I'm open. I wouldn't have met certain people, I wouldn't have had certain relationships if I wasn't open. If I didn't do I think a Jay Shetty or whatever his name, if they didn't do his podcast. Mm-hmm. She's open. And sometimes you don't know until you go whether or not you want to come back to the party.
Right.
You don't know. Networking is fantastic if done the right way. And if you can of course turn it off, but when you are going out there, and sometimes you just might be sitting at the airport and talk to somebody, and you'd be surprised having that conversation is a form of networking if there's some synergy in what that person does.
Absolutely. And even if there isn't any synergy for you, you put that person in your tickler file or your file, and you may be able to help that person if you're clear on what they do, and they may be able to help you if they are clear on what you do.
And you have all the tools nowadays too. So you have like those cards where you could just scan it and then you capture the people's information, or you can have the business cards. Still people, I'd probably say 70% of people still like the business cards. Or you can go to the platform and say, follow me. So you can open up your phone, which you have your phone all the time, and you can, there's no reason to miss out on networking opportunities. I remember before the smartphones came out, age myself here, and a guy was a contractor work at one of the 5-star hotels out here. And, we're on a plane, and he's like, hey, I work there. I do a lot of their contracting work. If you want to get a discount there, give me a call. And to this day, I hate that I can't find that guy's number, right? It wasn't because I wanted to go to that hotel for forever, and I don't know what I did with the card, but if it were now with a smartphone, I think back then when I met him, I had a flip phone or something. If I had a smartphone, oh my gosh, I'd have put it right there in my phone and put the name of the hotel and everything.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
Hugely important. I'll say this last thing before we kind of wrap it up. In St. Louis, And those of you who are on this listening to this, and you're from St. Louis, you'll know what I'm talking about. There are a couple of schools, high schools, not colleges, high schools, where parents of some means, and even not of some means now because of the regulations, they send their kids to this school because that school produces the most city leaders, regional leaders for the last 100 years. So if you want to have strategic partners and strategic alliances, they literally start in high school because those that particular school has produced the most mayors, councilmen, business people, etc. And you're literally networking with future leaders and future people who you're going to be doing business with. Just amazing. Just like it was Yale or Harvard or WashU or whatever, USC, UCLA, etc.
Well, that brings me to something, what you just said, is that sometimes you can leverage someone else's networking skills.
Mm.
My own kids, I don't even think they take advantage of it as well as they should. I remember I got my one son a job at FedEx. FedEx is a Fortune 500 company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was because I had a restaurant, and they used to come in, the VP used to come in the restaurant all the time, right? And how do you get a job at FedEx? Of course, they're there. They're in there. They're eating food. They love eating food, and so they're relaxed, right?
Right.
And then they come in all the time, and I asked him, and he said, "Make sure your son puts my name on his application." Boom, he got hired.
Wow.
Right? My another son, I actually called Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was going through a challenge with my son, and I didn't call him, on Twitter. It was on Twitter. Do you know that man gave me his phone number
Wow.
and told my son to call him?
Wow.
Yeah. So you can leverage someone else. That's another incident. I was at a Earth Day event, and there was a what do they call it? A waterless car wash product. And I said, "Well, my son likes cars. I wonder if he would like something like that." And I, told the man about it. You know, that man came and knocked on my door to come get my son.
Wow.
To show him that he became the youngest distributor in that company. My point, that would be what perhaps, Curtis, a key stakeholder,
Mm-hmm.
who you know and who you build an alliance with. Their years of experience can be powerful for you.
Right.
But I don't think I think it's important to bring this up in this course, because I don't know, especially if young people really understand the power of someone else being able to pick up the phone and make a call for you. That's powerful.
That is very powerful, and leverage is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Even to the point where our mutual friend, David, he has in the mornings when he gets up. I think he gets up at dark 100, 4 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
He uses 4 to 5:30 for leverage time. Just thinking about what groups, people, YouTube channels, podcasts, newsletters that he can leverage from others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is, if used correctly, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's like, oh gosh, well, I think I met you networking, like you said, prospecting and networking like 25, 30 years ago. So it becomes something that it can give you longevity in your business life. And I'm sure it works even on a highly professional level. I've seen my brother, who's a professor, go from, just teaching to interim dean to now vice president of a college. So that's because of your network. And
Right.
that corny saying that everybody says is cliche is your network is your net worth. So it's
Absolutely.
valuable,
It's
valuable.
hugely valuable.
Mhm.
So, how about some homework this week? What are you thinking?
I am thinking
What do you want?
write out a list of your key stakeholders. Who would you call a key stakeholder? And we explained that before already
Mhm.
about like what that looks like.
Correct.
And then write out a list of who would be a strategic alliance. Now, you don't have to have these. I just want you to write them out, perhaps maybe as a goal
Hmm.
of what you want to see happen. Some of them you might have, some of them you're writing out in a perfect world. This is who I would want to be my key stakeholders. Who? And perhaps when you write out something like this, you might manifest it in some way or not. But you gotta you gotta do the work. You gotta speak up. You have to put in the time. You have to show up. These are all the things that you have to do in order to make these things happen. They won't happen without your work. So that's your homework. Take out a sheet of paper and put out your key stakeholders, and your alliances. Who are they? What do they look like? And then can match them up.
Nice. Nice. Very nice. So let's have them do that. And then, and by the way, you said, and maybe you manifest it. You will manifest if you do it and you look at it and you continually pursue it. It has to manifest itself.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I said maybe because again, the key area that most people struggle with is you have to do it.
Right.
You
Got to take
have to do it. So yeah, if you don't do it, it does not going to happen. But you've got to do it. So yeah.
absolutely. All right. So, Robin, I'm going to ask that we come back next week just as a quick bonus round for everyone, just to wrap up and kind of tie a bow around this because the 5 weeks have it's gone very quickly. Quite honestly, it's gone really quickly, and I want to be able to like encapsulate all the great stuff that you've really linked us up on and helped us get through. So, would you be amenable to taking another 30 to 45 minutes next week and our final finale, our conclusion, our wrap up for, if you would, a bonus week 6.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Well, there you have it, everyone. You have your homework. You've had your homework for the last 5 weeks or 4 weeks. Robin has given you another opportunity to do something spectacular. And Robin, is there anything else that you want to talk about, or before we wrap it up, or you want to wrap?
No, um, I would say you just have to do the work. You have to be consistent, and it doesn't always, if you go work out, you're not going to see any results that day. You have to consistently do it, and then you have to make it a part of your whole being. But you gotta do it first.
Right, absolutely. All right. And, the slogan is overplayed. It's a great slogan, and at the same time, it's true today as it was when Phil Knight said it. Actually, almost 60 years ago. Just do it. And so, with that, Robin, thank you so very much for spending the time with us, and we will see you again next week.
section. Yep, we'll see you next week.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.